wanna know how I got these warframes so quick?
You farmed them on the star chart?
Why so circuitous? You want to quickly decide which of these frames to pick in this week's circuit? I'll give you the 5 Fs to make the best decision for you. Loki is the invisible boy that tricks everyone, and he's fast as fuck. He will survive if he becomes John Cena. Your one pops out the flimsiest decoy in your life. And it's gone. Your tree is a literal switch teleport with anyone, including your allies, and the decoy, and confuses them. And finally, radial disarm destroys enemy weapons, as long as they're not immune, like these Eximi, and they're forced into melee. His passive is the most situational thing ever. He can cling to the wall for a whole minute. And who said that every frame has to kill with abilities, when clever placement and gravity can do it for you? Hold the Giga Presses. News just dropped. DE are buffing 2 of Loki's abilities end of this month. Let's just say, good riddance, Decoy Jenkins! Meg is the magnetic caster of many AoE skills. Her first is pull, literally pulling enemies into a small ball in front of you. Magnetize traps one enemy and all those nearby in an inescapable magnetic bubble that also redirects all the damage to the center, and this will also explode for a major explosion when it's done. Or if you hold it at 2, you actually create a bubble around yourself that sucks in enemy damage from almost all around you, and then expels it as a frontal cone. Enemy damage scaling is weak, so this is also weak. Then you can strip and tear until it's done, reducing enemy defenses and giving you shields. Crush lifts enemies in the area and destroys their defenses, and also brings all the shields to the yard for you and for allies. The passive is passable for an early frame. It's 8 meters vacuum instead of 5. We gotta talk about something special. She has a peculiar ailment, and that's status problems. All of her abilities do magnetic damage, but have 0 status. The only statusy enemies are getting out of her is the chip damage, either slash or puncture, from the fragments left after her tree. Yikes. And it's not even picked up in 8 meters, just 3. Rhino is the chunky boy that will survive anything and buffs team damage by a lot. Charge is a short-ranged bulldoze attack. You could combo this, but 4 times garbage is still garbage. At least it's cheaper. Shield Gate is temporary. Iron Skin Overguard is eternal. But even better, once you do the roar, you do emotional damage to everyone. And finally, you can stomp the ground so strongly that it lifts them and slows their time by a lot. Something you need to know about Rhino's tree: it's way stronger than this number says. It's the only ability that applies damage multiplicatively to all abilities, and it also works as a universal faction buff. That means it double dips on all damage over time. He's a really strong frame, but he does absolutely none of those statuses in his entire kit, and his passive is also worth ignoring. Farming the full rotation of a frame's blueprints would take you between 2 and 3 hours in the circuit, unless you're willing to spend some credits and skip the last 2, because you can buy the blueprints from the market for all 3 of the frames in this rotation. However, the market doesn't tell you where you should be farming them, and that's what we'll compare to the circuit. Loki drops from the Hyena Pack on Neptune, which is the 4th planet from the end of the base star chart. It's not super hard, you just need decent gears and frames. It might take you 4 minutes in solo. Meg's boss fight is much easier. That guy is known for being weak, and he was only slightly reworked from the original release when bosses were still just bigger enemies. It's about 2 minutes per run. The Jackal is one of the better rebuilt bosses that has some actual mechanical complexity. It is intended for you to jump around, but you can also fly or just stick close to the lasers. It has some unskippable animations and should be about 3 minutes per run. Regardless of where in the star chart they're unlocked, it's the actual mission time that determines your farming speed. And based on a way better statistician's numbers, and all of them having the same drop rates, these are some of the fastest frames to farm, and you basically don't actually want to go for the circuit unless you want something else there. Their grind is very simple. Loki and Meg have the standard one neural sensor, which requires Jupiter. Rhino is designed to be very early player friendly, and you only need to farm 2 gallium from Mars. Once you actually have one of these frames, you're probably looking to get the augments. You only get one predetermined per frame in the circuit. So if you want the others, you will have to buy them from the max rank of these syndicates, 25k each. But if you know that you can't get all of them even with 4, you will still have to trade for some of them. Normally, frames are rated by kills per minute. Loki is rated by trolls per minute. Anything's possible when they can't hear or see you, and they have to fight each other with basically sticks. Until you forget to go invisible for 3 seconds and get deleted. Of course after shield kit, if you weren't unlucky. Do you like AoE magic and ripping off enemy defenses for yourself to get lots of shields while they can't even hurt you? Once you can properly spam her abilities and synergize with projectile weapons, you can scale her to very high level. She is really good at static defense type missions, but once you need to move, she basically doesn't help you at all. If Mag didn't crush you with her ties, he's going to crush you with everything. First, you do a bit of Angry Birds, and then you do a lot of tanking. Then you do a bit of roaring and a lot of emotional damage. And if the enemies have managed to annoy you and lower your overguard, now you just press 4 and you're back to full. You see this? Me casually doing 130k overguard? Now buckle your child seatbelts, Tenno. I'm not even optimizing this build. I have no grouping, no path. I don't care what operator focus skill or what arcanes I'm using. I don't even give a single shard. But what's the downside of this? Technically, it's not eternal because you can still get nullified. And then this build also eats like an ocean or 2 of energy drinks. That's all cool for new players, but why would you ever learn to move when you can just tank everything? Some fashion, much wow, such visible, alien. Loki. Invisibility Prime. Magusi. Magusta. Pepsi Mag. Iron Mag. Saucy Magus. Apple Pie. Bug Frame. Monstrosity. Mr. Pincredible. Why would you want to feed these frames to the helmet? Loki's decoy is the flimsiest imaginable type of decoy ability until it gets reworked soon. Even with half the range, it's still a cheap and reliable grouping ability useful on many frames. Basically everyone will tell you to subsume Rhino as soon as you can, because even at the 3/5 strength on the subsume, it's still the most reliable and strongest subsume that actually does multiplicative damage buff. Here are the railjack remote abilities for the few of you that actually want to play Space Commander. But Magnetize is the only weird one. It does require a target. You're obviously not gonna cast it on yourself. My life advice is, do not pretend that someone else's limitations are your own. See you later, Tenno, and don't forget to tickle that Thanos up button for more support.